So thank you for joining me, Jane. Can you please let people know what you do and how long you've been working in the education sector for, please?
Hi there, James. I've been in construction all of my life, so 40 plus years now I've been working in construction, and over 25 of those have been in education, but in all different guises of education, really. So the last 3 years I've been with ISG as one of the main contractors. But for the 21 years prior to that, I've been client side for a local authority and also for central government, helping them steer and shape programmes to go forward in the education sector. So I've seen lots of changes over that time, and equally lots of things that should have changed, not change over that time, that we're still grappling with today to try and move things forward. I'm currently the sector director, so look after all things education in that education field. I'm a chartered engineer and chartered surveyor by background, so I've always had a real love of the built environment and the world that we live in, and that is so important in the education sector, because those spaces where we're teaching young people are really what are making the talent of today.
And in terms of your current role, does it cover the whole of the UK? Sort of just give people a little bit more detail in terms of your role at ISG, because I know you came sort of from client side within Wales, haven't you? And now you're kind of got, I think, got a slightly bigger remit within the UK.
Yeah, so my current role with ISG as sector director is a UK-wide role. So I look after all of the education work that we cover within ISG. So some of the main frameworks, obviously the DFE framework is one of our key education frameworks, but a lot of our regional frameworks also pick up a lot of the education work, along with frameworks like Pagabo, where we pick up a lot of the university work. So our education sector covers everything from preschool all the way through to university. So we've got projects of all sizes happening at the moment.
Thank you. Right, so the first question is quite a long one, left by Shane Cryer from Sangabank Equifon. So I'll ask this on his behalf. Hopefully I won't make a mistake, but here we go. Right. On behalf of the Institute of Acoustics and the Association of Noise Consultants, I would like to ask you the following question. How can we help main contractors like ISG not derogate or value engineer important design specifications that have been put there by their own design departments for a very good reason? And well-meaning QSs think they're doing everyone a favour by saving some money, can ruin an entire acoustic design through their value engineering by not collaborating. So how can we stop that from happening? How can we collaborate more and build a bridge between architects and main contractors' design departments to their commercial QS departments to stop that from happening?
Yeah, I think this all for me comes back to knowledge, and it's about better awareness. So I think lots of times, the design side of design teams will obviously have lots of training in acoustics to understand the importance, why it's there, the effects on teaching and learning in spaces. But sometimes that doesn't always get passed through to the commercial teams, and quite rightly, as Shane pointed out, sometimes there's value engineering, happening there. And that's because they don't understand the consequences of changing that one tile for a different tile because it's cheaper, for example. So I think the things that we've got to do is that we've got to try and upskill that commercial sector so that they understand the reasons behind these things. And I think there are lots of ways we can do that. We can do that through getting people like Shane in to come and talk to our commercial teams. We can do that through like lunch and learn sessions. But it needs to be in a way that they can understand, because they're not designers. But what we're trying to do is make sure that they understand the principles of it. So why that certain tile has been specified and it is being used in that space. And I think something that we can do as main contractors is look at that along with our design review process. So to make sure that we've got a gateway in there to try and stop that happening internally. So I think for me, there's a bit of two things. It's about training, upskilling, so that people understand the importance of it, and then having processes in place to try and stop it.
Thank you for tackling that long question. And Shane, hopefully that's answered the question for you. Well, on to our next one. So which projects are you most proud of and why? So you've had a sort of a long and distinguished career in construction and in the education sector. So you've probably got a whole plethora of projects you're very proud of. But which ones would you say kind of you're most proud of at the moment?
Yeah, I would say there's probably two out of all of them. As you say, I've delivered lots of projects, but two of those projects that stand out for me. One of those was Penarth Learning Community, and that was delivered in 2014. What was really interesting for me, that was 5 schools coming together. And of those 5 schools, 3 of them were SEN schools, so ALN in England. Those schools coming together with a mainstream secondary school. And for me, that we always called that project the perfect storm, because we had all of the right people together on a single project to be able to truly deliver that in a collaborative style. So obviously I was client side for that project, and that doesn't always happen with projects. So HLM were the architects there and Bouygues were the main contractor. But it wasn't so much about the organisations, it was about the people that made up that project team. And we had 2 great heads from the 2 schools that we were working with as well, and they were directly involved with all of the decision making and then working directly with the pupils. And for me, that's what was amazing, because we'd got, big steel frame up, concrete slab down, and we got the construction ambassadors, which included the special school children, and some of those children were in highly specialized wheelchairs, and we got those onto site to see that site, and they came every month to do that site visit. And a lot of contractors could have just said, too difficult, we can't do that, can't get them, health and safety, trying to get them onto a live site. But because everybody was in the same mindset of that project, and those youngsters from Ysgol actually went on to win a parliamentary award for the work that they did with involvement. So that sort of always is a real special place in my heart, I suppose, that project there. And then at a completely different scale is the primary schools, the Agilis model that I started with the Vale of Glamorgan with ISG, and that was all around actually having a standardized design. So we know what we need to offer in a primary school. You've got 8 classrooms, a hall, dining space, kitchen, toilets. So why are we redesigning and putting so much waste into the system through that redesign? And over a period of 10 years, we've delivered 7 of those primary schools for the Vale of Glamorgan. And to me, so that's the other end. Actually, when you've got a design right, why do you need to keep redesigning it? Actually, you need to work on that and improve that. And that was proved by being able to make that primary school design a net zero school, and the first in Wales that was delivered at South Point Primary. So good design should be able to see its way through, lots of changes that you have. Also, back to COVID times, those were some of our best performing schools that we had in the Vale of Glamorgan. Because of the large heart space, we could keep the 2 meters direct access outside. So those are the sort of 2 projects that really stand out for me.
Perfect. So the power of people and the collective will of people working together, the value of good design, and kind of a standardized approach. And in your opinion and view, kind of what does that sort of standardized approach bring to the kind of the education sector?
So for me, it's about that standardized approach is about trying to drive efficiency, so driving waste out of the process. Why do we need to start everything with a blank piece of paper and start from scratch every time we try and do something? But it's also having enough flexibility in it that when you go into a school that you can talk to the school and you can make small changes. So it's around that grid sizes, it's your Lego kit of parts really that you've got there. And that's what's important, because you need ownership from those end users. So they need to be able to feel it's their building, their space. but within the confines of what you're working with. So that's, for me, what's really important about doing that you can still engage with the end users so that they're part of the process, but you're doing that, you know, in a contained area so that you're driving the efficiencies, whether it's on having standard door types. So when I worked in the Vale of Glamorgan, I was looking after over 60 schools there. And when you looked at just something as simple as an internal door, we had something like 37 different types of internal door across the estate. So when you need a new door from a maintenance, you've got to find out exactly what that door is. So there, where for me, things around standardization is really important. So it's not necessarily about making everything look identical, but we've got to have some standard components.
I like that analogy about Lego, and it's a box of Lego and a hat. It's how you do the building and that kind of bit. So thank you for that. So over the next year or so, what do you think are going to be the biggest challenges that the education sector sort of will face, and why?
So I think the biggest challenges that we're likely to face over the coming years is definitely going to be around funding, and that's going to be always something that there's never enough money to do. We've got an aging building stock across all sectors in education, so they need those funding spent on them, as well as the whole decarbonisation, which is a whole separate agenda, as well as looking at your stock. So I think that's going to be a challenge, is how you make your money go further without it being a race to the bottom, because that is no good for any contractors, and you don't get the quality of the building that you need at the end of it. So I think that's really important. And then what links to that is the whole skills agenda. So that's not only skills in being able to, your traditional tradespeople, but when you look at within a local authority, they're losing people from local authorities. So how are clients going to be educated enough to be able to procure the right buildings, to maintain those right buildings? So there's got to be something around a partnership between public and private sector, because we all want the best, which is the best for children and young people, so that we've got fantastic learning facilities. But for me, that is something that we've going to have to grapple with over the coming years.
As a main contractor, you've got quite an interesting program on the sort of developing future talent bit. Could you share with the audience a little bit what you're doing to bring the sort of the talent of the future to come through ISG and kind of work in the various sectors that you cover?
Yeah, so one of the really important things is about working with young people, because they are your future workforce. So whether that's from, really, primary school level, to engage in STEM activities, to get people excited about what construction is, and particularly the digital side of construction, because once you start looking at Minecraft and those things, you can get young people engaged around construction. And then moving through it is particularly around the T levels. So that's given a great opportunity for young people to come and spend 45 days on site as part of their T level qualification. For us, that's a great way to test these young people and see the talent that actually we want to keep within ISG going forward. So we've now embedded that T level process as part of our recruitment into our early years process, where we're looking for apprentices and graduates to go onto our schemes. But this is a great way for people to try construction and see whether that's what they want, and also the different elements. Is it the design side? Is it a main contractor side? So we're working across our supply chain to put people in their 45-day placement, whether some of that's with the supply chain, whether it's with the designers, or whether it's with us as a tier 1 contractor. But that's a great way of trying to bring new talent into the industry and into our early career programs.
And on that new talent bit, you also do quite a bit with some people leaving the armed forces and then wanting to get into the construction sector. Can you sort of share a bit more about that kind of pathway that you've been working on and developing as a main contractor?
Yeah, so it isn't just about young people, about getting young people into construction. It's about how can we look at, retraining people. And a great example of that is where you've got people that have come out of the military, because they've got a lot of the skill sets that we absolutely need in construction. So we work very closely with Buildforce So when we're looking to recruit for any positions within ISG, that we go via Buildforce for that to see whether they've got any ex-military that are suitable, and they're guaranteed an interview then to come forward for ISG. So we've been doing quite a lot of work with ex-servicemen to explain what construction is, what the skill sets that they've got, taster days. We've got some Royal Engineers that are doing some work placements this summer with us at the moment out on 6 of our sites. And then hopefully once they do leave the military, they'll want to come into construction. Great if it's with ISG, but great if it's just into the industry, because we need people everywhere.
So an excellent example of how you're turning a challenge into an opportunity, and so thank you for that bit. On the flip side, I guess building on how you've responded to the challenges and seeing the opportunities, as a wider sector, what do you think are the biggest opportunities that we have over the kind of coming year or so, in your opinion, and why?
So I think that the challenge stroke opportunity is around doing things differently. And that's the bit that we really have to grasp going forward, that, we know that money's tight. We know that, budgets aren't, going to grow and grow and grow. So what can we do to make that money go further? And for me, that has to be around collaboration. So that's the key bit, that we've got to be able to find better ways for public and private sector to come together, to be able to share knowledge, to share ideas, frustrations as well as that. And I think that's where Education Estates is a great tool for me, because that's one of the safe environments that you can bring public and private sector together, because it's not that easy. I've sat a long time on the public sector. It's not that easy to be able to mix with that private sector world. But that's something that we've got to find, spaces and opportunities to be able to do more and more, because no one party has the answer to whether it's the skills shortage, whether it's the funding crisis. So what we've got to do is be able to bring those people together in safe spaces to be able to collaborate and come up with the solutions for the future.
And thank you very much for those kind words about Education Estates. And if I may just expand on that slightly with you. Say, kind of ask, in your opinion, and obviously thinking forward to October, where you once again have a large presence with us, and you've helped shape the conference program and many other things yourself and your colleagues do for us. What do you think an attendee would get out of going to Education Estates, and what would be your rallying cry to them? Say, come to Education next October and you will benefit from X.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the massive benefits that I've seen, both being contractor side and when I was with the local authority with attending Education Estates, is that opportunity to see what's happening across a broad spectrum of projects within the education sector, but across the UK with what's happening there, so that you can take that best practice and learning, even if it's only small nuggets of that, back to your own environment and look at how you can, use that for something that you're doing. I think, the other thing, as I've said, it's a safe space to be able to talk with colleagues, with private sector, with consultants, with manufacturers, to see what's out there. Certainly when I was sitting local authority side, you don't get many opportunities to do that, particularly around looking at, what new products and things are out there. You're very reliant on the consultants that you're using to be able to bring those things forward. So it was great at Education Estates to be able to see those things firsthand and be able to talk to the manufacturers and look at what innovation is coming forward. So for me, it's about, learning what other people are doing, that opportunity to talk to people about what they're doing, so that, you can take nuggets of those back to your own environment and be able to implement on the projects that you've got. And without Education Estates, there wouldn't be a way of doing that. It's great to be able to do things over Teams or through the trade journals, but it's not the same as meeting somebody and talking to them.
Thank you very much for those kind words, and that's that's amazing. And those that want to meet Jane, her team, and also just experience what Education Estates got to offer, do come to the event in Manchester in October. It's completely free for the public sector to engage with all the content and the sessions over the 2 days. And as a private sector attendee, you can either come as a visitor or you can attend as a delegate, and more information can be found on the website. Now, you're incredibly well known in the sector. a legend. But can you share something about yourself that the audience might not necessarily know about you?
So I don't know how many people will know, but I'm really keen on motorsport. So always had a real interest in motorsport, and my husband and I built a Caterham from a kit, which he then raced in the Caterham Academy. He still races the Caterham now, and I pit crew for him. So we're away this weekend. So during the summer, away every few weeks, racing all around the UK with that. But if I had the opportunity to retrain, it would definitely be as a mechanic in motorsport. Love it.
Wow, I did not know that. And which F1 team do you follow, or are you not a fan of F1?
I do like F1, but I'll follow, all of the teams. I'm really interested in the way the cars are put together. It's around that innovation that goes into those cars that we see come forward. So rather than the F1, particularly the Le Mans 24, when you see in those prototype cars that they're racing at Le Mans, but those things then come forward and get put into everyday cars. So that's the bit that's really exciting about those.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And my next conversation is with Paul Turpin from Arcadis. What question would you like me to ask Paul during our conversation?
So it sort of goes back to some of the topics that we've been talking about, and something that I'm particularly interested in, and that's that as an industry, there's got to be a better way for us to collaborate, because that's the only way we're going to come up with the solutions. So my question to Paul really is, how do we do that? How do we collaborate as an industry to come up with the solutions that we need for the future? Is it all bound by procurement? Because that's the thing that always gets, thrown in. So it would be really interesting to hear his views on that.
Thank you. And Paul, that's a really big question for you to answer. So I look forward to hearing your answer as well on that. Jane, thank you so much for joining me. And we very much look forward to seeing yourself and the team in October at Manchester for Education Estates. And yeah, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.